Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I'm just loading Steam. I had to restart it because it was being a butt. But I'll get you your Ace Attorney in just a moment or three. It's loading and I'm going to pray that it doesn't have horrid audio issues. Nope, sounds good. Alright, so it is doing its loady bit. Should, come on, capture the game. There we go. Thank you very much. And we're good. All right. Sorry about that. So, hello everyone. I hope you're doing well. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day. So, we're nearly there once again to the end of another week. I had an interesting thing happen to me this morning that I wanted to tell you about before I jumped in. Specifically, my one of my coworkers in India, who I was on a call with, chatting him through some stuff and whatnot, he asked me if I was European, if I was from Europe at all, because of my accent. No, being an American, I took this as a compliment, considering that, generally speaking, the English accent is a little bit more refined sounding to most of us Americans. I think it's probably why a lot of people, despite the fact that we, threw off the shackles of monarchy long ago, people still, for some godforsaken reason, follow the Queen and King of England. Or I suppose I should just say the King, right? There's no Queen right now. But it was a little surprising, and so I attributed it to my upbringing, because I was not European, but I was raised by half. Or I was raised by one. Half my parents are European. So, but we're studying a new mystery today, and I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's funny, and I'm wondering if doing all the voices for this game and all the silly accents are having a bit of a bleed effect over.
The grand end of the century great exhibition of London. Surely there is not a soul who has failed to hear of it. Wondrous new works of culture and industry from every corner of the globe had converged on Hyde Park, welcoming over 50 million visitors. The last great hurrah of this century. Astonished and delighted people of all nations, and ended on a note of resounding success. But as regards to the terrible catastrophe that occurred during the festivities, very few are aware my friend Mr. Herlock Sholmes had a hand in unraveling the matter. For from the shadows, it was he who earnestly unearthed the facts of the case. And like the centerpiece of the great exhibition, which rose high into the skies of Hyde Park, Sholmes's brilliant deductions, as clear and lofty as the crystal tower itself, brought the truth to light.
We're here at the showground of the Great Exhibition, which is absolutely packed with people. The weather is unusually fine, and we're about to witness a most extraordinary scientific experiment.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 20th century will see steam engines and electrical power dominate the world. Horse-drawn carts will give way to the motor car. Ships will sprout wings and take to the skies. And today, we showcase even more advanced technology. A glimpse into the future. A world first. A demonstration of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine.
Wait, is this guy supposed to be like super eccentric Tesla or something?
A man will literally be disassembled by a pulse of high voltage electricity and beamed to another location, whereupon his body will be reassembled by a series of complex calculations exactly as it was before.
This seems like a very bad idea, or a magic trick.
But a few moments from now, these gentlemen will, in the blink of an eye, complete an incredible journey through the air. To arrive an instant later on the Crystal Tower behind you! This one! Yes, yes, yes! Woo! Yes! Yes, yes, yes! No! Please! That's not what I wanted!
That went about as well as expected, I suppose. Wow. I wonder if he's reading a newspaper about this or something like that. Vino, are you listening? Oh, sorry. What was it, Iris? What's the matter with you? You've been miles away all morning. Did you like what I cooked for breakfast? No, that's not it at all. What were we talking about again? Today's paper! It's full of news about the great exhibition again. Ah, yes, the great exhibition. I'd like to go sometime. You're really not your usual self today. You seem very down. Don't you agree, Hurley? Oh, he's also very down. Did you say something, Iris? Oh gosh, you're even more down. Oh, poor Sholmes. Wow! When did you arrive, Mr. Naruhodo? I've been here for about half an hour already. We had breakfast together. What? Why didn't you mention it before? I thought you might have known I was here. You know, because breakfast. Iris is quite right. You're clearly lacking in vim. So much so that I didn't notice your presence. Thanks. Of course, I could deduce the reason perfectly well with some simple observations. What? Let's see. Yes, for example, your tousled hair this morning with all of its unruly spikes. Clearly it can be deduced therefore that... let me stop you there, Mr. Sholmes, because I think I can see where this is going. My hair always looks like this. It always has. Ever since we first met, in fact. Oh, really? How interesting. It just doesn't look like a haircut as such, I suppose. Thanks again. It crossed my mind recently that it's been 6 months now. 6 months? Since I was forbidden from working in court. So I've been wondering how much longer I'm going to be banned. Oh. Well, that would explain why you seem rather glum. Don't you agree, Hurley? Did you say something, Iris? What is the matter with these people? Back to moping. Sorry, I have a I was having a conversation with someone and I told them that my replies would be slow because I was going to start, streaming those things, and then they kind of like dropped a more serious topic of conversation on me, so now I feel bad about not replying as quickly. So, these things happen, I suppose. What's the matter with Mr. Sholmes today? He seems even more down in the dumps than me. I know, and the great exhibition has opened. You'd think he'd be so excited. Oh, why don't we all go see it together? I want to, of course I do, but I can't. Not for the time being. Why not? Why not? Why not? Because! I'm a great detective after all. So, you were embroiled in some tricky case that you can't be distracted from. Is that it? No, I don't remember hearing that you're working on a case, Hurley. I suppose I should try to find out what's going on. Ah, okay. I like the opening though. That was fun. With the strange machine and the like super compressed mic that the dude was using to do stuff. Let's see, converse. Well, honestly, I want to know more about this. Because that's like why we did the entire last mystery. So, give me a moment. I don't want to be distracted while I'm reading this part because it feels like important. So let me just give me 30 seconds to reply to someone on Discord so I can kind of deal with this conversation, I guess. Okay. Half a year ago now. Sorry, that was way more than 30 seconds. I took on the defense of a young girl in a trial I heard at the Old Bailey. What at first seemed like a simple case of murder that took place at a London pawnbrokery turned out to be one part of a much more far-reaching plot that involved the British government. During the course of the trial, it was found that I made an unavoidable, yet at the same time, unforgivable mistake. Oh, does this have to do with the Morse code stuff?
Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo!
Yes, my lord.
I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial.
Of course, my lord. In the end, I had my right to represent people in court revoked. I was told I had to spend my time in research and study, so that's what I've been doing. You have, haven't you, Runo? Reading all those big fat tomes about British law up in your room, and the notes about Shom's old cases.
Brewing Iris' special blends of tea, fetching my daily bread for me.
You've become something of a manservant around here. Start on the silver next, Master Naruhodo. Well, I'm thinking of going to ask the powers that be to reconsider. Specifically Lord Strongheart, at the British Supreme Court on Whitehall. Lord Strongheart?
Ah, the delightful Lord Chief Justice. Not my favourite fellow.
He's not mine either, but he's the man I have to talk to. He's the only one who can grant permission for me to start working in the courts again. I came to Britain to become the best lawyer I could, and I can't do that just sitting around here. Okay, that explains that. I thought there was like a totally separate case or something that was the reason why we weren't allowed in court anymore. The whole of London has been swept up in this great exhibition, hasn't it? the most advanced science, the most modern technology, the finest works of arts and feats of engineering. For the next 6 months, our capital will be showcasing these things, and the world will be watching. Oh, do you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to look down on London from one of those lovely balloons. Look down on? Do you mean those things? Fly? Yes, of course. They fly high in the sky and don't even need wings to do it. All you need is hot air. But how? How does hot air have anything to do with flying? Makes no sense. Oh, I can't understand it at all. It's true of a lot of new scientific discoveries. Most people can't understand them at first. But in 100 years' time, all these things will just be common knowledge. I suppose they might be. Mind you, some of the science being demonstrated seems very questionable. Something went wrong on the open experimentation stage yesterday, apparently. There was a huge explosion. Still, I wish I'd seen it, though. I'd love to see how bad some of these scam experiments really are. Says the innocent 10-year-old girl. See here. Every page of this paper carries some article or other about the great exhibitions. But the brighter things shine, the darker the shadows that are cast behind them. Personally, I find myself drawn to the darkness, to the impenetrable. That is my proper atmosphere. Oh, thank you. This is, I'm sure, going to be useful. Shadows cast behind. Is that a metaphorical way of referring to the back page of the paper? Alright, I'm curious. First test of matter transportation device. Yeah, we just saw this. Every article on the front page is news about the Great Exhibition. Public experiments to demonstrate brand new scientific? Wow, brain, thank you for reading a word and doing all sorts of interesting things with it. Oh god, cramp. Ow. Sorry, I don't know why, but like my thigh muscle that connects to my butt just like twinged itself in an interesting way. That was unpleasant. It's also positive and hopeful about the coming century. We must all go see it properly before too long. Let's see, Tower Genesis worldwide, something. The Reaper attack. Whoa, what do you mean the Reaper attacked? So many glowing reports about the Great Exhibition and everything that's going on there. Other than this rather gloomy looking one that is. Wait, what? What's the matter, you know? The Reaper attacked? That's Lord Von Zieks. This must be what Mr. Sholmes was talking about. Does he know any more, I wonder? Ho. What if we end up defending Van Zieks? That would be something, wouldn't it? Right, well, I'll ask that up the Gloomy Mood one. Gotta finish what we started first. Are you investigating a particularly tricky case at the moment, Mr. Sholmes? You could say that, I suppose. Nothing more to add. That's not like you. What sort of case is it? Shh! Quiet, Mr. Naruto. Must not discuss it here. You never know who might be listening. You're acting very strangely, Hurley. What do you mean, Iris? Well, usually. In the more mysterious and complicated cases, the better Hurley's mood. Ah. Is it really a case that's bothering you? Ah, yes, please. You mustn't exercise your astute powers of observation and deduction on me without invitation. Remember what I always say. Put yourself in the shoes of the individual about whom you're making deductions. You say that, do you? You, Mr. Sholmes. Never mind. Once I've had a cup of tea, I must make my way at once to the crime scene. That was a deep sigh. It says in the paper that Lord Von Zieks was attacked. That's terrible. You know the legend of the Reaper of the Bailey, of course, don't you? Only too well, in fact. Yes, Prosecutor Baroque Von Zieks. Wait, what? Baroque? Have I been reading this wrong for like 1.5 games? Baron Von Zieks. Holy shit, yes I have been. Baroque Von Zieks. Really? Wow. How did I... How? How did I mess up that for so long? Baroque von Zieks. Wait, how do you pronounce that? How to pronounce name Barak. Bosnian originated surname that's used globally. Or a Russian one. Oh, the first hit on Google that isn't just like the autofill kind of stuff that tries to tell you things is a Reddit post on the Ace Attorney subreddit. Didn't know that existed. How is it pronounced? It's a Dutch name indicated by the von. Baroque is the Dutch word for Baroque, and it's pronounced like Baroque. Okay, so he's Baroque. Okay, I learned something new today. They say that if the Reaper is the prosecutor in a case, there's no salvation for whoever in the dock. Even if the defendant is found not guilty. Once the Reaper has someone in his sights, one way or another, that person's time left on this earth will be short. London's finest rogues always find ways around the law. They'll stop at nothing to secure an acquittal at trial. Falsifying evidence, paying sham witnesses, threatening jurors, bribing judges. But even such devious tactics as these cannot save them from the hands of the Reaper. As you've experienced yourself, haven't you, Mr. Naruto? Yes. I've seen the Reaper's retribution at work. Many of these criminal rogues are reckless and quite unafraid to die. If a leader among their fraternity is seen to have been taken by the Reaper, retaliation like this does occur. Really, the capital has never any supply of such scoundrels. So, do you mean Lord von Zieks has been attacked like this before? This isn't the first time. He's quite an accomplished combatant, you know. He doesn't take these attacks lying down. Although, it seems that his assailants were armed with guns this time. Oh my goodness. Is he alright then? Is Lord von Zieks hurt? My dear fellow, how on earth would I know? Well, in the article here it says, as to what of Lord von Zieks and his condition, all will be revealed in tomorrow morning's edition. Oh god, it's clickbait. Ah, I see. Well, we shall have to be patient then. No, I can't wait until tomorrow. In that case, you shall have to inquire with somebody in the know. But who? Lord Strongheart, perhaps. Does he see people for this type of thing? Considering how, like very aware of his watch he is. Well, I must be leaving now. Yes, understood. See you later, Mr. Sholmes. Ha! You really are a shameless liar sometimes, my dear fellow. What? You seek to put me off my guard and follow me, don't you? Then you would be wasting your time. The thought hadn't crossed my mind. But now I'm wondering where you're going. Well then, see you later indeed. Listen to him. He's still laughing on his way out of the door. Whoa! We haven't seen this outfit before. I love it. Look at her. Wait, can I want a picture of her, like, adorable outfit. Look at the space buns. Just like it's like Mickey Mouse ears. Alright then, Ryuno, let's get going. Oh, Iris, what are you wearing? I've got change to go to the exhibition. You're going to take me. What? But I was just about to go to the Supreme Court. Oh, well, that sounds fun too. You're going to take me there too. Oh, damn, I don't. Oh, maybe I got it. I might have gotten it. Alright, fine. Just lower that weapon, would you? Of course. And now to the Supreme Court, then we'll go to see the Great Exhibition. Very good. Is there anything that I should examine before I leave? Probably not, right? Everything looks pretty much as it was. What's up with this, though? VK? Huh. Why is home shooting letters into the walls? Alright, well, let's move along then. What shall I make for breakfast tomorrow? Why don't I surprise you, Runo? Oh, look how adorable her little outfit is. Oh, it's been 6 months now since Susie went back to Japan. The poor thing. The poor thing. Is he actually going to be here? Because I feel like he wouldn't have time for me. Unless we made an appointment. It's been about 6 months now since I was last here. But some things never change. Like the sense of foreboding I always seem to feel in this place. Sorry, I swallowed something a little weird. Oh. That is wonderful. Look at that. Look at it. That is adorable. Oh, I love this place. I always find so many interesting books here. Of course. I was forgetting that you've been here before. The time we came here 6 months ago. When Susato-san was given the news that she was to attend to Japan. Okay. It's been a very long time since we witnessed Stronghard, so I don't remember what voice I gave him. So that's probably just me kind of similar to Zieks.
I understand you wish to speak with me.
Oh, Lord Strongheart. I trust you've been keeping well.
Well, let's see. Since you arrived and requested an audience, it's been 4 hours, 32 minutes, and 26 seconds. I've kept you waiting a while. My apologies.
Oh, no, not at all. I like nothing more than standing around staring into space.
Good to know.
Good to know that doesn't appear to bother him at all. Mel Strongheart, Lord Chief Justice of London. He's the man who's allowed me to stop practicing as a defense lawyer when I arrived in Britain as a student. You need only savor the air for a moment in this grand office to understand his preeminent status.
As you will be aware, the Great Exhibition of London is now underway at last. We are extremely busy as a result, policing the grounds, guarding the new technologies, dealing with petty crime. And furthermore, as of next month, we shall open the International Forensic Science Symposium.
Oh, I've not heard about that.
Investigating authorities from 40 countries around the globe will be taking part, including from your own land. Forensic science is the future. The world must embrace it. As we are the hosting nation, I have much to do, and it is my highest priority. If others must wait for my attention as a result, so be it.
Well, it's nice to know where I stand.
So, you wish to consult with me? Of course, I can very well imagine what this is about.
Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, my lord. I want to be allowed to start working as a defense lawyer again in court. That's what brought me here today. But actually, there's something else playing on my mind, as it happens. You know, just take a deep breath and come out with it. I want to, like, savor his his theme for a little bit. It's been been a while since we heard it. It's so, like, dramatic, you know? Let's ask about this first.
All sorts of conferences have been taking place around the world to coincide with the Great Exhibition. And next month, the largest and most important of them all will take place at last. The International Forensic Science Symposium.
It does seem as though criminal investigation needs to embrace scientific methods, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Huh.
London, the global epicenter of culture, science, and wealth, now has a population exceeding 6 million. Sadly, crime in the capital is growing at a similarly startling rate. So it's imperative that we use the latest scientific methods to investigate and resolve cases as efficiently as possible.
Which is what's known as forensic science, is it?
Exactly. The future of policing.
Huh.
Regrettably, however, Britain is currently dragging its feet when it comes to the adoption of forensic methods.
Oh, dear. That's alarming.
Exactly. It's extremely alarming. If I were Her Majesty's Attorney General, you can be sure the numbers of crimes committed and resolved in London would be very different to the current figures. And I can cite 12 solid arguments and 223 individual reasons to support my claim.
Sorry.
By way of apology for keeping you waiting early, I shall detail everyone now.
What? Oh, how fascinating.
It all began 15 years ago. I was...
Oh my... No, don't go to sleep, Bruno.
Holy shit, that's so good. This is the bad end option. And that more or less sums up my feelings on the matter, in the simplest of terms, of course. Essentially, to formally establish a forensic investigation division within Scotland Yard. That is my mission.
Oh. Right, yes, that's wonderful.
Exactly. Wonderful is precisely what it will be.
She went and started reading a book. Iris isn't paying attention at all. She's got her nose in another book now. Oh, is it over? Did you learn anything useful? I actually drifted off for the most part. He's surprisingly ardent about forensic science.
Gotta slap my face like Bruno.
I actually came here today to ask for your permission.
Go on.
6 months ago, my right to work in court as a lawyer was revoked, and I was told to spend my time studying. Obviously, I'm very sorry for what happened, but the thing is, it made me understand what it really means to defend somebody under the rules of a foreign justice system. And I desperately want to have another go. Please, permit me to enter the courtroom again.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes. Oh, here it comes.
I'm sure you haven't forgotten your position here, have you? At best, you are a substitute for your compatriot. This was never your intended role.
Well, that's true. The Japanese government actually sent my best friend on this study tour, not me. It should have been Kazuma. He was so determined to bring change to our own justice system at home. That was his calling. If that tragic accident hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here in this office now. Mr. Asogi was my best friend, you see. That's why I can't leave it unfinished. I had to fulfill his calling for him.
His calling, you say? Has it never occurred to you that perhaps you know nothing of his true calling?
Sorry?
The mission with which that young law student was charged. What do you suppose it really was?
What do you mean? Mission? It's not making any sense.
Never mind. I've read all the reports you've submitted over the past 6 months. It's clear to me that you regret your actions and have been studiously obeying your revised instructions.
Do you mean...
As of this moment, I reinstate your license to practice law here in Great Britain.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, that's wonderful news, Runo.
In fact, I believe I have the perfect case to mark your comeback. A curious affair. You'll consider it, I hope.
Of course. Please, tell me more. You described it as a curious affair.
Yes, that's right. I believe it was reported in the press. Are you aware that there was a serious accident at the Great Exhibition yesterday?
Oh, no. Yes, I read all about it. A professor from Germany tried to carry out a crazy experiment.
Let me see. How was it described?
Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, I think. Instantaneous kinesis? As in moving things with a click of the fingers? That's right. It's just what my herbal blends need. A dash of devil-may-care. Whatever this serious accident was exactly, it's clearly captured Iris's imagination.
It's an unfortunate business. A large explosion engulfed the public experimentation stage and a man lost his life. A certain Mr. Odiasman. An investor and a well-known figure in society.
A large explosion? A man died?
The man responsible for the experiment was Professor Albert Hairbrain. God, these names. He was detained immediately after the incident and is due to appear in court tomorrow. On the charge of murder.
What? Murder?
If you intend to take on his defense, you should hurry to meet with him at the prison. There's very little time left for you to carry out any kind of investigation.
The Great Exhibition. A scientific experimentation gone wrong and murder. I feel out of my depth before I've even started. Still. We should go to the prison straight away then, and try to meet with this German professor. Don't you think? Definitely.
I like that Iris is willing to give up her plans to go to the Great Exhibition to go to the prison with me, it looks like. Yes. One more thing about the case. There's a connection with our mutual acquaintance, the Reaper.
Oh, Lord von Zieks. How?
He's not... I see him saying that. Can I get him to talk about it by presenting this to him, maybe?
Oh, that reminds me. Have you seen this?
The reports of the overwhelming success of the Great Exhibition.
Of course. No, not that. The story on the back page.
What story?
The Reaper attacked.
Oh, sorry, this is stronger. The Reaper attacked. Ah, that. You've enjoyed some victories in court against my #1 prosecutor, have you not?
Poor Mr. Reaper. What happened to him? He wasn't killed, was he?
There's no need for concern. Lord von Zieks will not be so easily dispatched, I should assure you. Sorry. my tongue stopped working there for a second. Let me get a little bit of water in me. There's no need for concern. Lord von Zieks would not be so easily dispatched, I assure you.
Can you tell us what happened? I'd really love to know.
Very well. If it interests you...
It does, strangely.
I mean, he's not really a friend, but I mean, like... He's like a war buddy or something. Fortunately, Lord von Zieks emerged from the attack unscathed. Street ruffians are no match for that man. He's a very capable fighter.
But that's incredible. They were armed with guns. Why was he attacked, though? Do we know?
It's related to events that occurred a month ago. A leader of one of the capital's criminal organizations was indicted and prosecuted by von Zieks. But the man was acquitted. Of no doubt large sums of money were involved behind the scenes.
Large sums of money?
A deplorable situation. Members of the jury were bribed, it seems. However, despite winning his freedom, the man in question met a dramatic end yesterday.
But you're not suggesting that was the work of the Reaper, surely?
The victim's henchmen certainly seemed to think so. He was a man by the name of Osman, Mr. Odie Osman.
Did you say Osman? That's the man who died in the big explosion at the Great Exhibition.
Yes, known publicly as an investor, but in reality, the head of a significant criminal organization. Unbelievable. I wonder, could I ask you something, Lord Strongheart? Try me. Why do you use Lord von Zieks as a prosecutor? All the criminals who manage to get off in court then meet with mysterious ends outside the courtroom, and fearful of that fate, they seek to strike at Lord von Zieks first. I know there's no evidence that he actually is the Reaper in that sense, but still, something's clearly going on here. Did he say here there? Sorry. Here. Yeah, I did say here. Okay. I have von Zieks work for the prosecution service for 2 reasons. Firstly, the man is the best prosecutor in the capital, bar none. And secondly, any deaths of criminals that have occurred outside the courtroom following his trials are nothing to do with him. But that doesn't make any sense. How can you explain the way that so many have died if not by someone's hand? Von Zieks may have earned himself the moniker of the Reaper, but he is no killer. So he will continue to prosecute on behalf of the Crown. Unless he wishes otherwise, of course. I think we're done now, right? Yeah. Well, I must be leaving for my next engagement. I'm already 11 hours and 16 minutes late. My colleagues may be starting to fidget. 11 hours late? That's quite something. That meeting had already started when I arrived back here for this engagement with you. So lateness was inevitable. Time stops for no man. I'm sure it stopped for me during those 12 solid arguments and 223 reasons. Oh yes. Where would I find Lord von Zieks now? I would assume he's at its office. Right. I'll go and ask him about the attack in person. I want to get this straight from the horse's mouth. Away with you now. I'm leaving Professor Harebrain's defense entirely in your hands. This is a new face. I don't think he showed us this face in the previous game. Of course, yes. Thank you very much, my lord. I wonder if... Do you think if you don't listen to him talk about how much he loves forensic science and all that business, that he's not as late? I'm like, just curious. Alright. I'm kind of excited, not gonna lie, to see the, like, office of our great rival. Should I go to the prison first or go to the prosecutor's office? Well, this is within the prosecutor's office building. I assume that this is closer, so I'm gonna go here first. We'll probably find out interesting stuff as well that maybe will affect our prison sentence. Alright. The prosecutor's office. Oh, so this is the legendary Reaper's office. Yes, it appears so. Sends a chill down your spine, doesn't it? What an amazingly deathly atmosphere. Oh, is that... That hooded figure was so still, I hadn't noticed his or her presence. I wonder who it is. What are you doing here? Look at him. Look at him. Just look at him outside the courtroom. He's as unwelcoming as I thought he'd be. Actually, maybe even more so. Oh, I'm glad to see you're well. I am. So, who's the person over by the wall being punished for something or other? No punishment is taking place here. Oh. That's my apprentice, and he's sitting there of his own free will. I didn't know you had an apprentice. It must be from the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. Sorry, it must be the same person who was pictured in the newspaper. He's very able in combat. A requisite skill for anyone under my tutelage.
Are you referring to the attack on the Reaper that was reported in the papers?
The Reaper. I'd be interested to know the Reaper's true identity myself, assuming, that is, such a fabled fiend genuinely inhabits the courtrooms. Sorry, our great courtrooms. Look at this. Look at this mountain of a man right here. Sorry, I like Van Zieks. I think he's really cool. I mean, he throws wine glasses around. Okay, can I examine things without him, like, getting uppity at me, I wonder? Oh, look at all these hallowed chalices. Look at that fine collection of hallowed chalices and bottles neatly lined up there. My hallowed bottles are filled with the essence of the finest grapes from the finest vineyards I visit. And I personally oversee these chalices being made by the finest crystal craftsmen in the world. Why can't I read today? And yet you throw them around in court like they were worthless. Yes, because this imbecile is so unimaginably and repeatedly wide of the mark sometimes.
Oh.
Before you open your mouth next time, you should consider the poor artisans whose work you defile.
So, it's my fault. Silly me. How could I ever have thought otherwise? Ooh, chess. Lord Von Zieks' desk. Look, it's so stylish. And that's a marble chess set beside it. Chess. That's the Western version of our Japanese shogi game, isn't it? You know, I'm actually quite good at shogi problems. Oh, really? You'd probably like chess problems in that case. I'd love to challenge Lord Von Zieks sometimes. To about the shogi problems. If you only really want to challenge yourself, you can always do that on your own at home. Okay, we gotta see this picture here. Is this his father, maybe? That portrait really dominates the room, doesn't it? It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly... Sorry, I gotta... Apparently, a half hour ago, I got a call from Xfinity? That's strange. They didn't leave a message, though, so they can go fuck themselves, I guess. Strange. It's a very majestic outfit and pose, but sadly, whoever painted it didn't do a very good job of capturing Lord Von Zieks' facial features. Yes, you're right. I mean, it's not far off, but the artist has exaggerated his subject's handsomeness, I think. Oh. Ah, that reminds me. I heard Emperor Napoleon of France ordered artists to make him look more attractive when they painted him. How vain. That's really not an attractive quality in a person, is it?
That portrait does not depict me. Surely that's immediately obvious.
Oh, then who is it? I am very curious. Why did Xfinity try to call me? Sorry, apparently, like, this whole week, like the last 7 days or so, I feel like I've had plenty of, like, distractions while streaming, which is really irritating to me, because I don't really want to be distracted on stream while we do all this stuff. So, because I care about my internet connection, and I want to make sure that I can continue streaming for all of you, I'm just gonna sign in to my my like web portal for Xfinity real quick to see if there's like an alert or something or anything to do with issues with like my bills or stuff. I don't really know what I should expect from this. Because it just seems strange that they would call me for no particular reason. I mean, there's been like lots of strange weather alert things and that kind of stuff recently, but I don't think it's anything like that, because there's there were warnings yesterday, I think, about issues with like air quality and that kind of thing, because there's like quite a bit of haze coming from some wildfires. But let's see, total balance, auto paid scheduled, yeah. Yeah, this seems fine. You know, they're paid, so I don't think there's any issue. Weird. I very much wish that they had left a message, because then I would just listen to that, and then we would only have like a minute of me waiting to listen to a voicemail to figure out what the heck's wrong with whatever, like why they're calling me. But all right, anyway, I'm gonna stop looking at that now. Apologies again for that, but at least we had Von Zieks' you know, music to keep us company while I plap it on there. Oh look, it's a scale model of the Great Exhibition Showground. That's amazing. I wonder why it's here. What's this over here? Perhaps he made it to take his mind off the sadness of being too busy to attend in person. Or perhaps he's too embarrassed to queue up for a ticket. Surely it's obvious that I'm using it as an investigative aid. You Nipponese have no business painting others as overly reserved. I really didn't think he'd overhear that. I assume we'll get told to not bother the lad. Look at all these ancient casks lining the wall there. Casks in the Reaper's chamber. Or are they caskets? You don't think? All those people who escaped conviction in court are lying inside them dead, do you? Look at her face, oh my gosh. What ridiculous notions are going through your head, man? This is my collection of fine vintages. Oh, yes, of course. Thank you for clearing that up. Runa and I were just musing to ourselves. Don't mind us, Mr. Reaper. I wouldn't, if you hadn't invited yourselves to my office to talk nonsense within my earshot. It really looks like a punishment to me. I've never seen someone sitting like that before. He hasn't moved a muscle since we arrived. Do you think perhaps he's dead? If he was dead, Bruno, he wouldn't be sitting up, would he? Well, anyway, dead or alive, he's not overly approachable, is he? I don't think he's going to talk to us. He's not dead. Lord Strongheart said that the assault last night was some sort of revenge attack. True. Carried out by henchmen of Odie Osmond's criminal organization. The investigation meant their arrests were imminent. Presumably some hope to kill me before that happened. Odie Osmond? He's always masqueraded as one of London's most powerful financiers, a global investor. But his enormous wealth came to him by underhand means, via his criminal activities. And he used that money to buy himself a verdict of not guilty when he found himself in court, didn't he? Being prosecuted by you, Mr. Reaper. But the man got his comeuppance in the end. Yesterday, in fact, in extraordinary circumstances, it was a most unusual cause of death. I know about that. It was super high voltage instantaneous kinesis gone wrong. Mr. Osmond died when the demonstration on the public experimentation stage ended in an enormous explosion. Correct. And you think I have some kind of divine ability to cause an accident like that to happen, do you? Well, no. That does seem a little far-fetched. If this man really is the fabled Reaper, then he has to be innocent of this particular death at least. It's strange how this has worked out, isn't it, Bruno? I mean, what's with you taking on the Professor's defense for the trial tomorrow? What? You're going to be defending him? Oh, yes, that's right. Though I barely know the man's name yet, to be honest. Albert. Albert Hairbrain. That's right. Do you know him by any chance? Of course. He's a contemporary of mine. We were at university together. You're... What? 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 Well, now I want to know this too, but I want to ask him about the Reaper's identity. Because this sounds like it's probably funny. I always hate like breaking up the way like if they bring up a new topic to like not click it right away because it's like relevant. What do you mean by what you said before? If you'd like to know the Reaper's true identity, does that mean... I'm a crown prosecutor and a mortal like any other. I'm no demigod. But they've all died, haven't they? The people you've prosecuted, I mean. Whether or not the trial ended in a conviction or an acquittal. Those I prosecute are the vilest wretches of our society. People who, without question, deserve to be found guilty. The world is a better place without them. But that's not true of Mr. Natsume, for example. He wasn't a vile wretch at all. Nor was Kinney. In fact, she's ever so hardworking now. I can't deny that since I encountered you, things have taken a turn. But the point is this. If any of those vile wretches that escaped justice subsequently died in mysterious circumstances, it was at the hand of their own kind. It's not my work. Lord Strongheart said the same. He believes you're not involved in any way. But you were attacked by those ruffians because they believe it's true. The fact is, since people started to call me the Reaper of the Bailey, the number of serious crimes in the capital has dropped substantially. Oh. It would appear that even the most hardened criminals could be made fearful for their lives. Do you mean to say... I mean to say that if my pseudonym serves a useful purpose, I adopt it gladly and with honor. But it's putting you in danger. You could be killed. If that is my fate, let God decide. Look at this man and tell me he's not amazing. This man is on a crusade of prosecution. Lord von Zieks. Okay, I gotta know more about Oldie. I'd understand that Professor Harebrain was from Germany, though. Harebrain's from a respectable British family. After graduating from the University of London, he moved to Germany to carry out research. That's all. So, you were students together? I was in the Faculty of Law, of course, and he in Science, so our paths rarely crossed. But curiously, we got along, and though I've not met him since my university days. I certainly didn't expect our next encounter to take this form. And with you, of all people, representing him. Only if I make it out of this office alive. He's actually been charged with murder, it seems. Yes, I know. Because the prosecution will be handled by me. By you? But you made it sound as if you and the professor had been friends. We are friends, it's true. Then why would you do this? If the Reaper is the prosecution, there's nothing anyone can do to save him. He's doomed! What's Lord von Zieks thinking? Oh. I think maybe we don't have all the stuff we need. Maybe we need to go to the prison. I can try presenting this to him to see if there's anything interesting. Lord von Zieks, about the article in this paper. Yes. It seems there was a reporter nearby when that little skirmish took place. I had no idea I'd been photographed. It was careless of me. It looks as though it was taken after the people who attacked you had run away, though. Rest assured, the police have already apprehended every last one of them. But there's someone else fighting alongside you, it seems. And I think it's the same man who's sitting over there as we speak, isn't it? Were those bats there before? I don't remember them.
As I mentioned earlier.
Oh, sorry, already? Already.
He is my apprentice.
Perhaps you could tell us a little more about him. Oh, we actually do get a new dialogue from that.
He's in my tutelage to become a prosecutor. So you could say he's my apprentice, I suppose.
Ah, like you are to Hurley then, Runo. I don't remember taking an apprenticeship with the great detective.
He's currently compiling a report about last night's attack.
It looks like he's wearing some kind of mask.
On Lord Strongheart's orders, nobody knows the man's face, or indeed his identity.
But why would you agree to take on such a clearly suspicious individual?
Lord Strongheart's orders again. He's not one for meaningless follies. There will be a good reason for his actions.
I hope you're right.
I would have assumed it's for his protection.
Sorry, that collar and... Okay, just making sure this isn't secretly like Sholmes or something. Ah!
The task is complete. Good. In that case, you can collate all the briefs.
Nice to meet you. Okay, back to work again. That was really strange, though. I've never met the man before. I didn't even know he existed, and yet somehow it didn't feel like our first encounter.
Don't bother trying to converse with him. He says nothing to anybody from outside this office. Lord Strongheart has strictly forbidden it.
Oh, I see.
Why are you so interested in my apprentice anyway?
Oh no, I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to. The way he stood there so casually, yet with that flawless posture. It couldn't be.
That isn't Sholmes, is it?
Posture. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Wait. It's not... No, it can't be. I'm thinking about the inspector from Japan.
Yes. There's something I've been meaning to ask you.
Oh, what's that?
That Nipponese man. Is he faring well?
Sorry?
The one arrested twice in successive 6 months ago. With the stoop, and the moustache, and the jitters.
Ah, Mr. Hotsume, you mean? I'm not sure he'd be very pleased to find out you identified him from that list, Runo. He's fine, thank you. In fact, I received a letter from him by international post only the other day.
I see. Well, I think we can end our discussion there, don't you? There's little time left before tomorrow's trial. I advise you to spend it investigating the case.
Yes, thank you for the advice. And for the conversation. I can't believe he's asking after Soseki-san. After a Nipponese. I'm not sure whether to feel happy about that or worried. I never imagined that Mr. Reaper would be friends with a mad scientist, did you? That's a turn up for the books. A mad scientist? Oh, you mean Professor Harebrained? Yes, it might be worth quizzing the professor about his relationship with Lord Von Zieks, I think.
Ah, so we might not totally be done with this, considering he didn't kick us out.
Alright, hold on. Sorry, one more thing. Can I examine the bats? Oh, I can.
Ah! They were bats! Yes, the Reaper's familiar, as I expect. But what about the mute man in the dark cloak? I thought he was the familiar. Just not the flying kind. He must be a dear friend of Mr. Reaper, then. I think the familiar idea is more likely. Scary, though, either way. That's so good. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's sitting cross-legged. That thing, I don't know. If he was sitting, like, say, as a position or something like that, then I would suspect the inspector a lot more. Alright, well, thanks for the chat, buddy. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the prison now. Room so dark, Mr. Eyes will suffer terribly if he's not carefully. Oh, thank you, Barack. It's gonna take me a while to get Barack into my head rather than, you know, Baroque or anything else like that. So it's one of those things. Buffet. Cell 11. Oh, good, it's a different cell than Soseki kept being in. The warden called. The warden said cell 11. That's this one. Oh, there's someone caught up in a ball at the back of the corner. Look. What's his name again? Professor Albert Harebrain, wasn't it? Excuse me, Professor Harebrain. Who are you? I'm Yunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a defense lawyer. A lawyer? Huh, was there something I said? Also, hold on. Sorry, I'm just remembering that he did have a voice, didn't he? Great Ace Attorney resolve opening 3. Sorry, I just want to hear his voice again, is all. Can I actually find this, though? There's a lot of Let's Plays.
Hey guys, Nintendo Caprice.
Oh god. That was exceptionally loud. And he completely skipped the opening cutscene. Alright, good. Oh, hey. Save Data did a playthrough of this. That's good. Okay. I can't find it. I'm gonna just do, I'll do my best. I was gonna try to find like the clip of its voice so I could hear what he actually sounds like to try to, you know, do something close to it. But, sorry. You just had to deal with me instead. Was it something I said? A lawyer, you say? Would you be here about the experiment? Are you going to defend my hypothesis? Your hypothesis? Sorry, I don't. Yesterday's demonstration! That magnificent demonstration was. It was an out-and-out success by anyone's calculations. But despite that, no one listens. No lawyer believes in the science. When it's explained, they all leave at high velocity. Now's probably not a good time to mention that your zeal made my concentration leave for a while too. The Reaper's varsity years. I want to ask about that first. I understand Lord Von Zieks is a friend of yours from your university days. Yes, that's right. He was studying law whilst I was studying science. What was he like back then? A good question. Unassuming, gentlemanly, and all around nice fellow, really. Sorry, I think you misheard me. I'm talking about the cold-hearted, merciless prosecutor, Baroque von Zieks. What was it like when he was at university? What a leading question, Bruno. As I said, an unassuming and extremely pleasant gentleman. After all, he's a little dolly in the Von Zieks family, with all of its great aristocratic origins. Oh, I didn't realize he had quite such noble blood. Little darling. It was a bit of a shock when I came back to Britain and learned what he'd become. The Reaper of the Bailey, no less. Yes, that's right. I did hear, though, that there was a very big event in his life that completely changed him after graduation. Really? What sort of event? I'm sorry, but I don't know anymore. I wasn't in the country at the time. I was in Germany already. Oh, yes, of course. If he's heard all about the Reaper, I really don't have the heart to tell him that Lord Von Zieks will be the prosecution in court tomorrow. Prosecutor, sorry. You mentioned that the demonstration yesterday. The papers have called it a spectacular failure. After all, a man died in the explosion, didn't he? Yes, you could interpret the results that way if you really wanted to. Well, I suppose in the strictest sense. The experiment was a failure, but at the same time, it was a great success. You lost me. I saw it with my own eyes, right there in front of me. Mr. Asma was spontaneously disassembled. Until then, everything was going exactly as my calculations had predicted. At that point, he should have been beamed to the Crystal Tower by instantaneous kinesis. However, the machine exploded and Mr. Asma in fact perished. Yes. I can't deny that part of the experiment was a failure. So, what you're really saying is the large explosion that killed Mr. Osmond was an accident, correct? But the bigwigs had you arrested on suspicion of murder. I was responsible for a man's death. That is the immutable truth here. And for that, I wish to be punished at once. But... Murder? Never in a million years! It was an accident. Simply an accident. I see. Hurley and I were talking this morning, you know. He said the situation would change completely depending on whether it was treated as an accident or a murder. How exactly? Well, if it really was an accident, then the professor's machine would be kept in protective custody. On what grounds? Ah, yes. It's newly established here in Britain. The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. That wouldn't pass me by. But if the case is treated as a murder, then they'll say my machine was the murder weapon, and they'll be able to pour over it as much as they like. If they examine it in detail, they'll find out how it's made, and then they'll be able to copy my idea. My precious hypothesis will be stolen. The machine must be protected from that at all costs. That's why it's imperative this whole incident should have been an accident in tomorrow's trial. I see now. So, in short, there was a terrible accident at the Great Exhibition Showgrounds yesterday. Yes! Or rather, no. The devil's in the details. Strictly speaking, there was a terrible explosion. Sounds the same to me. You were demonstrating super high voltage instantaneous kinesis, weren't you? How fascinating. Humans, like all matter, are made up of particles that are held together by electrical bonds. So it must be possible using a sufficiently high voltage to break those bonds and beam the particles through space. That's in a nutshell. That's my idea, you see? That's my amazing hypothesis. Gosh, that's unimaginably high-level science. Oh, but dare to imagine it. Dare to dream of such incredible technology. Just think, one moment I could be here in this cell, and the next, I could be at the Great Exhibition again. Well, yes, that would be incredible. And the next, in the mere blink of an eye, I could be at a great Parisian theatre, I say. The possibilities are endless. The whole of our vast planet would be well within reach. So, no more hiding in wardrobes on rocky seas for 50 days. I don't really see it like that. What do you mean, Iris? Well, if you could travel anywhere in the world instantly, the planet wouldn't really seem vast anymore, would it? I think it would feel like it had shrunk. My word! word! That's exactly right! What are the implications? What does this mean? Oops. Not got Professor Bunnybrain really worried by the look of it. Clearly, this is yet another case of just because you can doesn't mean you should, I suppose. Oh, man. The point is, my calculations are flawless. The science works. But without a practical demonstration, it means nothing. That's always the fly in the ointment. Because practical demonstrations cost a lot of money. Money that young scientists like you don't have. That's exactly it, yes! Hurley is always complaining about it. He says the government should invest more in science. Well, anyway, I bumped into him at the right time. I met the well-known investor, Mr. Asman. The victim who died in yesterday's terrible accident, you mean? The full name of the man who died in yesterday's accident was Mr. Odie Osman, wasn't it? What exactly was your relationship with the man? He first visited me in my laboratory in Germany a year ago now. He said he wanted to invest in my immaculate hypothesis. I thank my lucky stars! I see. So you hadn't really known each other until then? Money for scientific research. I'm so envious. As far as I was concerned, the man was an angel. Oh, really? An archangel, even. He was prepared to fund a practical demonstration of my hypothesis for presentation at the Great Exhibition. And if that went well, I could expect additional financial support for my research from the British government. Mr. Asman provided me with money and an exceptional engineer. He produced a machine to my precise specifications. So he supplied the engineer, huh? But then your dreams were blown to dust in one enormous explosion. As you can see, I owed everything to Mr. Asman. I would never, ever have thought of taking the man's life. Well, he seems genuine enough. I don't think he's lying. So, Professor, let me just make absolutely sure I've understood you properly. The huge explosion that occurred yesterday, that was an accident, you're saying? You had no intent to harm the victim, who was in fact the sole investor in your work. Is that correct? As correct as 2 squared is 4, I swear it! Yes, it's true that the man perished in a machine of my invention, so I know that I'm far from blameless in all this. But still, I would never use my discoveries, my inventions, to take a person's life, not in a centillion years. But man of science, it's all I know! You have to believe me, please! Do you believe me? Do you believe in my hypothesis? Science is the pursuit of truth, you know. I've always believed that, all my life. I'm afraid I don't know much about science, or your theories. But I do believe you, and I will fight to prove your innocence with all my might. I'm a man of the law. It's all I know. You have to believe me, please. When I went to live in Germany after I graduated, I learnt something very important. Nationality, class, lineage. None of that matters. As long as you try your hardest, you can achieve anything. Thank you for that, Professor. And thank you in advance for defending me tomorrow in court. Alright, Runo. It's time. Time to visit the Great Exhibition. Sorry? Well, that's where the incident happened, isn't it? Yes, I suppose that's true. Time to investigate at last. We don't have any extra stuff, am I? We get the good music, though. Do you care about the newspaper? How could this have happened? You must feel awful. As well as a man losing his life, the Crystal Tower was greatly damaged too. I know what happened. It must have been that. That? The day before the demonstration, I had my usual meal of frankfurters at the hotel restaurant. When I paid the bill, they gave me 3 shillings too much in change. But instead of saying anything, I just slipped the coins in my pocket. They're still in there now. It's divine retribution for my wrongdoing. That's what this is. For a scientist, there's some very illogical anecdotes. Long and illogical.
Okay. Well, that's it for that. Let us go to the new location that has been added. The experimentation stage. Okay, forgive me once more. I just need to, you know, do a little silliness. All right. Sorry, I also just like this music, and it's probably going to stop once we move, so I wanted to enjoy it a little bit more. The showgrounds are a little too big for my liking. We've been walking around in dense crowds for 2 hours now. I felt myself swooning. Excuse me. And I felt myself swooning 3 times. There are a lot of people, aren't there? I've almost been trodden on 3 times too. Be careful, won't you, Iris? Don't let go of my hand. We finally made it through the throngs, though, by the looks of it. Here we are underneath the public experimentation stage where the explosion happened yesterday. Oh, they broke a clock. What's that? I can hear voices from up on the stage. It sounds like an argument. Right. I've had it with you this time. I'm warning you, I'll arrest you in a minute. Oh, yeah? Come on then, Spectre. Give it a shot. You haven't got no evidence, you know it. Wait. I know those voices. You've got a cheeky little mouth on you, young lady. But a night in the cells will teach you some manners. Just try it, I dare you. If you want that bag of chips rammed down your throat. Yoo-hoo, Gregsy. Sorry, I know that's not how she sounds, but... Yoo-hoo, Gregsy, what are you doing up there? Ah. Oh, it's you. Here. You're here. You're here. Your ladyship. Those eyebrows. How are you, your ladyship? I do hope you're well, your ladyship. Does that make her 3 times a lady? Once, twice, 3 times an Iris. I'm not well at all. It's far too busy everywhere. I wanted to ride in a balloon, but there was a 3-hour queue. Unbelievable. I'll go have a word for you at once, your ladyship. You'll be flying as high as a kite in no time once I pull some strings for you. Tobias Gregson. Inspector at Scotland Yard. Sorry, that... will he do it again if we let him sit here? Because, like, just watch his eyebrows when he does that. Until recently, he was suspended from duty, but he's back in action now. He's actually quite well known, appearing as he does in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and for that reason, you can't say a word wrong to the story's author's Iris. But there are limits, surely, or there should be. Watch it, sunshine. Sorry. What gives then? Don't tell me you're on this case. Yes, I'm acting for the defense. So we're here to investigate. Dear me. Well, that's the situation, is it? Is it really that troubling? A measly 5 bob. Is that all you got? You're a lawyer, ain't you? You could stand to carry a bit more copper around in your pockets, Mr. Naruto. What? Hey, that's my last bit of spending money, that is. You can have it back. But I'll have to charge you for all the bother. 3 bob. This is Jean Lestrade, a pickpocket, or diver, born and bred in the East End of London. In the case that's led to my own suspension 6 months ago, this is the young girl I was defending in court. What's your problem, eh, Otto? Diver? Pickpocket? What's with all the name calling? You want a bag of chips round your throat, dear, and all, do you? I thought you were proud to be a diver, Gina. You were just arguing with Inspector Gregson about it, weren't you? I assumed you'd been up to your usual tricksy at the showground. I didn't know way to talk to a lady, Odo. After years, a long time. People can change. I'm an apprentice now. Learn to be a Scotland Yard detective. So you have to call me what everyone else does. It's Inspector Lestrade now. Oh, there we go. There she is. Inspector Lestrade. There we go. That's good. Inspector. That badge is homemade, surely. The inspector part isn't entirely accurate. No one calls her that. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating is off the cards for all of us. What's that supposed to mean? Right. Well, I'll be back up top. You're the fort down here, alright? Right, sir. This raises a lot of questions. I'll say. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty happy to see Gina again. And it also like makes me happy that she's now Inspector Lestrade. Like that's good because like when they first introduced her and it was like, oh, Lestrade, gonna be a police person, right? And it's like, nope, not even close to one. It was 8 months ago now that I first encountered Gina, in connection with the case I was working on. At the time, she was living in the East End with a group of other orphans. She helped all of them survive by pickpocketing, but then she got embroiled in a murder. I had a lot of time to think about it in prison. I realized I couldn't go on like I was. The diving weren't working out. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear it, Ginny. Well done. So, you went from being a pickpocket to a detective. You caught it? Good, innit? Inspector Lestrade. Sounds like something of a book, eh? Talk about a sea change. And then there's Iris's old man to think about. I was his father, you mean? Yeah, I promised her, didn't I? I said I'd get all the police forces around the world to pull all the stops looking for him. Just a small promise, then. Nothing serious. Oh, Ginny, you're so sweet. So anyway, that's how I had to go at the test for Scotland Yard. Only trouble is, I don't read so well, do I? Just a small problem. Nothing serious. And that's when Hurley approached Gregsy and asked for help. So the inspector said he'd take full responsibility for Ginny and made her a sort of apprentice. That was very magnanimous of Inspector Gregson, and brave. Well, you know Hurley. He enjoys finding ways to make people do what he wants. The great detective likes digging for dirt, in other words. Is this an apprentice for apprentice situation? Like, Gregson takes on her, Gina, and the Reaper takes on Sholmes, maybe? It would explain why he's in such a sour mood. But no, I'm guessing it's the inspector or someone like previously unknown to us, you know? What? So the long and short of it is, if you've got questions about the case, you can ask Inspector Lestrade. Right then, Inspector. Actually, there's still a big mystery surrounding Gina, isn't there? Oh, what, Runo, what? Well, 6 months ago, Gina was the defendant in a trial prosecuted by the Reaper. A trial in which she was found not guilty. Yet here she is still. Come on, you're not still on about that, are you? The Legend of the Reaper or whatever it's called? Core. You don't have worry, Gordo. What? Oh, this is like, of course. Is that core? You don't worry. You don't have. Core, you don't have worry, Yodo. Yeah, of course you don't have to worry. Of course you don't have to worry, Odo. If I didn't have to worry, there probably wouldn't be a whole lot of you left. It's like I told you before, innit? The Reaper's kind of like him upstairs, so he knows what I'm like on the inside. That I ain't really done nothing wrong. Nothing wrong might be stretching a point. What about Mr. Natsume in Japan? He's perfectly fine, isn't he? Well, that's true. Perhaps the Reaper is more discerning than I thought. Exactly. So I ain't worried, I'm totally fine. Cool. Was out of this world it was. The brainy bloke pulled a bunch of levers on his machine, and suddenly it started billowing smoke. Then it just went pop. I ain't seen a better experiment here yet. Sorry. You mean you saw it, Ginny? With your own eyes? Yeah, of course. The boss is in charge here, ain't he? Keeping everything running smooth, I mean. The boss being Inspector Gregson, I suppose. That's going to take some getting used to. So all I have to say is that I'm on duty. And I can do whatever I want to. Get this. I was up in one of them flying balloons when it happened, watching from above. No, you're so lucky, Ginny. Maybe I should join Scotland Yard too. Yeah, do it. You know how to put the boss in his place already, right, Iris? You'd have no trouble at all. Then it's settled. When do I start? No. You can't join Scotland Yard, Iris. We'll see. Anyway, what I don't understand is this. If the machine exploded so spectacularly, how come Professor Bunnybrain still be claiming that his experiment was a success? Oh, right. Well, it was a success in a way. It was. How can it have... Did it launch him into the tower? Surely after the whole machine blew up, no one could call the experiment a success. It's like I said, it did sort of work. I mean, yeah, there was a load of smoke in that whopping great bang. But where do you think they found the victim's body, eh? In the crystal tower over there. What? In the tower? You can see for yourself, can't you? Up there above the scaffold. Where are the glasses broken, you mean? Yeah, the cage what the victim got in to start with. Really did get beamed through the air, whatever, and land all the way up over there. So, you see, it did kind of work, didn't it? What? I don't believe it. I mean, well, I don't get the ins and outs of it, but anything's possible, right? With science. Oh, I tell you what, you can have this. It's a plan of the experiment they do up at the yard. Are you sure? Yeah, come on. I had 3 bob off you before, so fair's fair. Yes, I did actually give that to you, did I? So, what she's saying is that Inspector Lestrade can be bribed. That's what I just got from that. I want to take a look at it real quick. It's not much of a, it's not really much of a diagram, is it? Besides the fact that it shows how freaking huge the crystal tower is. Something Inspector Gregson said before seemed a little strange. For what it's worth, anyway. Investigating's off the cards for all of us. Yes, naughty old Gregsy ran off after that without explaining himself. Oh, right. That. The boss said no one's allowed to investigate that weird machine what blew up yesterday. That's not fair. We're representing the defendant. In that case, could you at least tell us what you've learned from your investigations? Nah, you're not getting it. We ain't allowed to investigate neither. Why? What would the boss call them again? The Forensic Investigation Team, I think. Anyway, apart from them lot, no one's allowed to lay a finger on the scene. Bit funny, ain't it? So even Scotland Yard's own detectives can't investigate. Yes, I've never heard of something like that before. I thought I could have a gander on the quiet, though. but the boss caught me at it. You probably heard him give me an earful about it before from down here, didn't you? It's not bleeding fair. I think you were giving him as much of an earful back as I remember it. Yeah, well, sometimes I think it's all them chips what make him so stubborn. You say something to him, Moto. Go on, see if you can get through to him. He's up on the platform above us, is he? Where the machine that exploded is. We can try, can't we, Bruno? Gregsy will listen to us. Alright, you got anything to say about the newspaper? This has been like my ticket to new dialogue every time. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go? Looking for this, Odo. Why did she do that? Well, have you got anything else to show me, eh? What do you reckon? Give that back first, please. Okay, no. I think she's just gonna steal everything. Oh, our favorite little klepto. What is this, though? Oh, it looks as though somebody dropped something behind the tree just here. Dropped. Or hid. What is this? Some part of the machine that exploded? Maybe. It could have fallen from the platform above in the blast, perhaps. What's going on here? Oh, nothing. I'll hang on to this just in case. Mysterious contraption has been entered into the courtroom. Into the court record. Alright, maybe I can show that to our friend in prison. Oh, anything here just raises up then. The Crystal Tower. It's certainly an apt name. It was built to be the focal point of the exhibition, and it definitely is, being so tall and with all that glass. I can't imagine a building like this ever being erected in Japan. Tokyo Tower? There are lots of exhibits inside the tower as well, apparently. Of course, there's an observation deck, but there's also an art gallery, a zoo, and a museum. But I heard you had to queue for 3 hours just to get through the doors. Well, at the moment, the shattered glass from the failed experiment may well be the biggest draw. And thanks to that accident, the whole tower is shut. Suddenly it's not the Crystal Tower anymore, but the Crystal Glass Shower. Apparently everyone's taking to the skies now to look down on the disaster area from above instead. But there's a 3-hour queue to go up through the balloon now. Londoners must be very patient people. This platform must have been set up for the experiment, I suppose. It's very high up. About 30 feet above the ground, apparently. That's what a policeman I just spoke to said. I don't really understand feet very well. We don't use them in Japan. Oh, yes, sorry. It's about 9 meters. But soon you've been in London for a year, Bruno. It's time you got used to our measurements. Yes, well... This thing is so tall. The spectators at the front would just have seen a wall and nothing else. They probably thought they'd secured the best spot to watch from, only to be disappointed. There's a saying in Japan, the darkest spot is right under the lighthouse. I feel like it probably applies here. The darkest spot is underneath the lighthouse. I like that. It's a good phrase. These stairs obviously lead to the stage above. We should go up there and investigate the exact spot where the experiment was being conducted. I assume Sholmes is part of the forensic research team, or whatever it is. So that's it, is it? The machine that blew up. Oh, it must have been a magnificent explosion, and I've seen my fair share. You've seen things like this before, you mean? Of course. Hurley's always doing experiments that end in a bang. In fact, in his own words, explosions are the very essence of chemistry. That might explain the smell of burning that frequently comes wafting up the stairs. One time, he made something explode with such force, it took the roof off the building. Oh, I'd wish you'd been there to see it, Bruno. It's hard to get too excited about that, given that I now live in the roof. Well, anyway, that's enough about that. It's time to investigate. Are we going to be allowed to investigate? Oh, look, Inspector Gregson's over there. He seems to be deep in thought about something, whilst eyeing up the machine carefully. Really? He just looks confused to me. I mean, you know, these things happen. Alright, well, there's a whole bunch of doodads and widgets and all sorts of stuff lying around. What's this? It ripped itself apart magnificently, did it? Magnificently and mercilessly. So, someone stands in the middle of the machine to be disassembled and beamed through the air. Yes, beamed, not blasted. That's the point. Yes, that part's crucial, really. Is something like that even possible, though, Iris? Oh, Bruno. I'm just a child. How should I know? A child when it suits you, you mean? From what I can tell, I think if you were to pull this lever here... Stop! Don't touch that! That was practically instantaneous kinesis, the way you flew over it just now, Gregsy. Please, your ladyship. I don't mean to startle you, but I can't let you touch anything up here. So sorry. You can have some of my latest special blend to make up for it. Go. Ah, wonderful. This stuff really is wonderful. It's just like old times, this is. We are representing Professor Harebrayne in court tomorrow, Inspector. So we should be allowed to examine the scene. Huh. Listen, Sunshine. Even I'm not allowed to touch anything up here. It's that blasted Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act to blame. It's driving me Wait. What did he just say? It's driving me potty. Okay, he did say that. Yes, that special dispensation. The professor mentioned that too. More red tape's all we need. I don't know what the government thinks is playing at sometimes. But we're allowed to just look, aren't we? Surely that's alright, isn't it, Gregsy? Of course, your ladyship. Anything you say, your ladyship. But please don't get your dainty hands dirty, will you? Don't worry. We wouldn't dream of touching anything, would we, you know? She really knows how to get what she wants. Using high voltage electricity to somehow disassemble a man's body, and then beam him across the crystal tower. It's an extraordinary thing to attempt, especially in public. True. It was by far the most unusual of the experiments planned for the exhibition, mind. To be honest, I'm a bit surprised it was allowed. Carrying out something so dangerous with so many spectators present, I mean. The government's doing everything it can to promote new science and technology at the moment. They're more worried about being ahead of the game than the odd spot of public safety infringements. If they can be the first to develop some new technology, they expect more powerful in the future, you see. Yes, I suppose that's true in a way. So the powers that be are placing a heavy emphasis on scientists' rights at the moment. What sort of rights? They're making it so that any theories the brains have remain their legal property, as it were. Right through developing into a practical idea and going into production. Which is the infuriating reason us corpos aren't allowed to touch this crime scene. Because the new high-falutin Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act forbids it. Ah, I see now. The only people with permission to investigate here are from some brand new department at the Yard. The Forensic Investigation Team, it's called. We've been relegated to keeping guard. The Forensic Investigation Team. Any old fool can say this heap of scrap metal is a sham to begin with. But just because it says scientific equipment on the paperwork, we can't do a flaming thing with it. Poor Gregsy. He's very het up, isn't he? Remind me again, what's this new legal act that means we're not allowed to touch the scene here?
Are you having me at... What? Sorry. Are you having me at it, Sunshine? The Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Yes. I think Hurley mentioned that recently, with a real twinkle in his eyes, I remember. I'm sure he did, your ladyship, I'm sure he did. Passed especially for this great exhibition it was. All scientists have to do is present their ideas or inventions on suits in the civil service. And if you get Robert stamped, there's a guarantee of rights to maintain the invention's confidentiality. What does that really mean? Think about it. Think of all the world-changing new inventions on display every day at this exhibition. Well, a good half of them are a load of cobblers, if you ask me. Put forward by shammers like yourself. Thanks for that. Oh, I love how absurd some of the inventions here are. It's all so fun. Might be fun to you, but remember the Force has to be present at every single demonstration. Can you imagine, eh? Hang science, that's what I say. Oh, I don't think so. That sounds like my dream job. You'd soon think otherwise after spending a day guarding all these shammers' bogus contraptions. But if they're all bogus, how can anyone hope to demonstrate them? There'd be no point. Yeah, well, there's a point, sadly. Sorry? Thanks to another of our government's bright ideas. If any theory or invention is deemed to show potential, the government hands out a research grant. The scientists get funding. Exactly. That's what they're all after. All these shammers coming from why to clog up Hyde Park. And who has to keep them all safe, eh? Who has to smile politely and welcome them? Us coppers, that's who. So you can see why I say it now, can't you? Hang science. Hang it. Oh, maybe I can see your point. I don't feel like I'm doing his voice the same way that I normally do. And I don't really know why. It's just like not coming to my brain for some reason. Apparently, Professor Harebrain lives and works in Germany now conducting his research. Well, that's right. Came back to Britain especially for the Great Exhibition as I understand it. Probably after one of the government's research grants. Actually, we learned something else about the professor earlier today. About his time in further education. It turns out he was at university with someone we both know. Lord von Zieks. What's that? That's news to me. But if von Zieks mounts the prosecution, then as the accused, the professor's fate is sealed. Because the Reaper will get him one way or another. Blimey. That man's beyond me. I don't know what goes on in that head of his. Talking of von Zieks, this morning's paper around the story of him being attacked. Read that. Oh yes, but Mr. Reaper's completely fine. Nothing to worry about. Yes. Right. Glad to hear it. Still, the Reaper, huh? How long's that business gonna keep up, I wonder? The victim of this case, the investor Mr. Osman, he was another Reaper's victims, or so I heard. Lord Beric von Zieks is a top-class prosecutor, but even he can't always push the right verdict through. Sometimes justice can't win. Yes, I've heard about jails being bribed and evidence being falsified. And that's how the notion of the Reaper of the Bailey came about, isn't it? Obviously. Scotland Yard suspected von Zieks initially. We all assumed he was taking matters in his own hands if he failed to seal the deal in court. Although the man himself denies that charge. Well, we've done a very thorough investigation. The conclusion we reached is that Lord von Zieks is in no way related to the deaths of these people outside the courtroom. There's no question in my mind. I'd stake my reputation on it, I would. But if that's true, then how do you explain it? All those defendants couldn't just have coincidentally died if nobody killed them. I know that, but I can't explain it. It's a mystery after all, isn't it? That's the whole point of the Reaper. Professor Harebrain mentioned something else. He said that at university, Lord von Zieks was a totally different person. Easygoing and kind. What? He said that it was after they both graduated that something happened to change the man. Do you have any idea what it was? No clue. Really? Look, I've got my hands full watching over this frustrating crime scene. Why don't you go and make a nuisance of yourself elsewhere, right? So we're allowed to just look, right? That amazing horn ship device is pointing towards the Crystal Tower. I suppose once people are disassembled by the machine, they're short out of that thing to wherever they're going. I don't think it was supposed to shoot anything, Runo. It was set up to beam people to the Crystal Tower where they'd be reconstructed in their original form. Well, I don't like the looks of it. If it was as amazing as it looks, the accident would have happened in the first place, of course. I suppose that's true, yes. Real theory goes according to plan, does it? And considering how badly damaged everything is, Professor Hareburn was lucky to escape unscathed, I'd say. Should have a good look around the machine while we can, I think. Touch anything and I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, yeah? It won't touch a thing, I promise. So please, spare thought for your digestion. Anyway, do you really think this machine could actually disassemble people like the professor claims? He asks, looking totally incredulous. Give it a rest, sunshine. If we were allowed to examine all this bleeding scrap metal, maybe we could answer that question. But we can't, can we? Because of all the annoying rules, you mean? Exactly. The annoying obstructive flaming rules. Oh, look at the base of the machine there. Oh yes, there's a tool of some kind poking through the wire mesh. It's a screwdriver, I think. Oh, isn't it a lovely one? The handle's in the shape of a capital letter A. It is. Oh, yes, you're right. What's the matter with you? Don't touch anything, I said. Touch anything. I'll make sure I kill you before I get strung up myself, I said. Yes, I understand. Sorry. I touched it a teeny weeny bit. But Gregsy, I'm very curious about this screwdriver. Really, very, very curious. Of course, your ladyship. You're so clever, your ladyship. Fancy spotting something like this. But I'm afraid can't let you have it. But Runo found it first. I assure you I'll investigate it thoroughly. He's gone off with it. That was very mean. I'm afraid Inspector Gregson is going to make a very clumsy and embarrassing mistake in next month's installment now. Poor Gregsy. Oh, but he's gone off with it though. That means maybe we can look around a little more. But there doesn't seem to be anything to actually look at besides the Ferris wheel, I suppose. What is that gigantic thing over there? It looks like an enormous water wheel. Oh, that's a Ferris wheel. There'll be people riding inside those little cabins you can see. Why? Well, they rotate nice and slowly, so it's a wonderful way to see the surrounding scenery. Wait, it's turning. Looks completely still. Yes, that's because it's turning so slowly. One complete revolution takes about half an hour. If you were mad enough to go on one, it'd be more fun to whiz around fast, don't you think? I feel as though you might have just invented a new sort of ride there, Bruno. You heard it here first. We have invented the roller coaster. There are all sorts of strange buildings here in the Great Exhibition Grounds, aren't there? I seem to remember something similar being exhibited in Japan one time. Oh, in your country, Runo. Oh, I do wish I could go see it. I'd present a particularly steely samurai with a present of one of Hurley's stories I've written especially. And see if I could get Hurley into a jam against some Bartitsu Master. Sorry, this is confusing to me because it's normally Baritsu. Like, I think this is misspelled. I'm fairly certain. Baritsu. Yeah, it's Baritsu. See? Baritsu. I mean, I know they're like making shit up, I guess, and parodying it.
Huh. Oh, it is almost certainly a misspelling of the real martial arts of Bartitsu, which existed in Britain at the time Doyle's novels were written. Oh. Well, I didn't know that. Hmm. Interesting. Sorry, this is interesting to read about. Because they're saying it's uncertain why Holmes referred to Baritsu rather than Bartitsu. It is possible that Doyle, who like Barton Wright was writing for Pearson's Magazine in the late 1890s, was vaguely aware of Bartitsu and simply misremembered or misheard the term. Perhaps in part to Japanese phonology prohibition on consecutive non-nasal consonants. It may even have been a typographical error, a concern about copyright, or a deliberate alteration to match the aforementioned Japanese phonological pattern. A newspaper report on a Bartitsu demonstration in London, published in 1900, had likewise misspelled the name as Baritsu. Interesting. Bartitsu. Cool. You learn something every day. And you might not find as many of those sorts of people around as you think. Oh, well that's dull. Oh, but I do know a prosecutor with a chonmage top knot I could introduce you to. A chonmage? Really? Do you think I could have my picture taken with him? Do you? Assuming he's recovered from the trim Cosmo gave him a year ago. Yes. He's kind of recovered. Until, you know, Susato nicked that a bit. So those are the people carrying balloons, dangling silently in the skies of London. I always thought the day would come when humans would discover how to fly, but I never imagined all them being suspended from colourful, floating Temari handballs. I'm sure it must feel amazing being up there among the clouds. Let's take a ride together, Bruno, please. If I'm being perfectly honest, I would like to try it, but without a cast iron guarantee that the thing won't plummet to the ground, I'm too scared. Oh well, in that case, I should tell you what Hurley said. It's physically impossible for a flying balloon to plummet to the ground, as long as it doesn't explode. Yes, call me crazy, but I think that the exploding part might play on my mind a little. Oh, he's back. I don't want to show him that. Inspector, have you read this paper? Yeah, 2 unwelcome blasts back to back. It's one of the expedition, the Reaper getting attacked. I know. Terrible news to wake up to, isn't it? I tried to pretend I hadn't read it and turned over for another 40 winks. Thanks to that, I was laid up and got a roasting from the super. Some mornings are like that, aren't they? As a detective, what do you make of this? Personally speaking, 9 times out of 10 I find clues turn out to be red herrings. There's every chance that's totally irrelevant. That's actually a fairly persuasive argument. As a detective, what do you make of this? Oh, that's his I don't give a shit message. Hey buddy, look, I'm a detective again. This is the symbol of a defense lawyer where I come from, Inspector. Well, doesn't pass muster here in London. Might as well chuck it in the deep fat file. No one's ever said that to me before. Mrs. Sherman suggests I feed it to a dog, though. If you fry it first, you can feed it to me. Do you think it's made of potato? That is like the best line he's had so far. What a guy. Alright. Let's go back to the prison then. Oh, he's gone. Wait, where is he? But I need to present this weird doohickey to you. Alright, Sholmes' place? Maybe Sholmes will be here and we can present him the thingy? No. The Lord Chief Justice's office, maybe? Prosecution office? Oh, he's still here. Look at him. He's just standing there, menacingly. His apprentice still here? No, his apprentice is gone. Okay, so maybe there's something new here for us. Lord von Zieks. I think he's ignoring you, Bruno. The prosecution and defense should avoid speaking outside of the courtroom as a rule. So if anyone is being rude here, it's most certainly the man in black there standing before us. Oh, I see. Well, thank you for setting the record straight. Did you see that? He spoke to me, Bruno. So, Lord von Zieks, have you managed to visit the Great Exhibition yet? He's definitely ignoring you. Right. No niceties either, then. Alright, then. He's just gonna stand there. So I guess I missed something. Oh, hi, Gina. Oh, well, maybe Gina will have an idea about this. Gina, would you take a look at... Oh, where did it go? No, never mind. Would she care about the paper at all? No. Alright, here's a question. Is Sholmes just like hiding somewhere? That's where the code went up after his instant kinesis, or whatever they call it. Dead, of course. And yet they're calling the experiment a success. What's the wooden scaffold there for? The corpers, or lads, set it up after the incident happened. To get the body down, I think. Don't know, really. Didn't you help to erect the scaffold, then? Lookout duty's more my thing. Wandering around the exhibition, keeping a lookout for the fun stuff. Mind Gregson doesn't hear you saying that, or he'll give you the boot. It's incredible, though, isn't it? I mean, could the victim really have bridged that gap by some sort of invisible kinesis? No. No, they couldn't. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while now, but what are those funny round blobs floating in the sky? Oh, the flying balloons I've been talking about. I want to go up in one so much. I've read about situations like this in a magazine about strange phenomena. Creatures from outer space coming around flying object to attack Earth. What? I suppose inhabitants of the planets are bound to be interested in the Great Exhibition. This is it, Iris. It's happening. It's not. Don't worry. I'll explain it all to you later over a nice cup of tea, Reno. Renosuke confirmed for watching too many episodes of Ancient Aliens. For some reason, the ground is damaged in the spot. Look. Almost as if there was a fire here or something. Yes. If you look closely, there's some scattered ash and burnt embers too. Well, I suppose there was a big explosion just above here. People probably wouldn't bat an eyelid at a small fire like this would have been. I'm not sure we English are quite that laid back, you know. Oh look, what's this? Or a piece of cloth? It's not like any fabric I've seen before. It's very thick and stiff. Looks extremely durable. It's canvas, I think, with some sort of rubber backing. And the edges appear to be a bit charred as well. Maybe that means it has something to do with the explosion. Let's make a note of it while Guinea's mignon. Okay, I think that's it. Bruno, listen. What? What is it? I've been thinking. Hurley might know something, mightn't he? About what? About Mr. Reaper. About what happened to Lord Von Zieks, you mean? Because it sounds like something very significant occurred after he graduated from university. Something that completely changed his life. Maybe, but I have no idea where to find Mr. Sholmes at the moment. He's in the middle of some big case, isn't he? Here, this is what you need. What's this? Some kind of entrance ticket. Madame Two Spells. Is this supposed to mean something to me? You don't know it? It's the most popular attraction in London at the moment. It's very close to Baker Street, actually. We could go now if you like. No, we don't have the time for visiting attractions today, Iris. We have a big trial tomorrow. But that's where Hurley is. What? At this popular London attraction? Yes. How is it that you know where he is? Hurley told me. But he told me to keep it a secret from you, Bruno. Madame Two Spells. I don't see how it could be related to the case we're investigating here, but then... stranger things have happened. And when they happen, Mr. Sholmes is usually at the heart of them. Can I go to Madame Two Spells? Yep. Ooh. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm almost tempted to end the stream, but I imagine we're pretty close to the to be continued part. We've been doing plenty of investigation after all. What? What is this place? Look at all these terrifying scenes. But why are all the people so stiff? Guillotines. Ruthless murderers. I know what I'll be dreaming about tonight. I think I see where this is going, actually. They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? Yeah, okay. So the, I'm gonna guess that the dude, Asman, was planning on faking this thing, like, actually working. By using, like, a wax figure of himself or something like that to show that he'd been transported up to the Crystal Tower or something. They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? What do you think, Bruno? Shocked? Wax models? Ugh. I read about dead bodies in wax once in a magazine about strange phenomena. Depending on how corpses are kept after death, parts of them can turn to wax, apparently. It's called a diploxia. Stop talking about creepy things like that, Bruno. You're scaring me. A depocusir? Also known as a corpse wax, grave wax, or mortuary wax. Wax-like organic substance formed by the anaerobic bacterial hydrolysis of fat in tissue, such as body fat and corpses. In its formation, putrefaction is replaced by a permanent firm cast of fatty tissues, internal organs, and the face. What do you mean, and the face? What? And the face. Strange. Anyway, adipose. Oh, actually, wait. How do you actually? Oh, okay. Apparently, I don't get to read that. Adipocere.
Adipocere.
Adipocere. Okay, there we go. Ah, what the hell? I just remembered something else I read in another magazine about strange phenomena. There was an old lady, maybe a witch, who used to pour molten wax over corpses and put them on display. None of the exhibits in here are real. They're all entirely man-made replicas. They can't be. Do you really expect me to believe that? Just look at them. No. There's no way anybody could make models of people that are this realistic. And they're all such gruesome scenes. Wait. What is it? Oh, no. No. I must be seeing things. Is this an arm? It looks like an arm, doesn't it? Maybe one of the waxworks models has fallen over. You don't think it'd be the work of one of the mass murderers in here, do you? Oh no! Stop scaring me! Is it a wax arm or a real one? Come on. You always pointing that finger of yours in court. Poke that arm now and see how it feels. Objection! Nothing particularly of note. These models are so well made I can't tell what's a waxwork and what's a real human. Or maybe all the exhibitions are real people, and when it's closing time and all the visitors have gone home, they suddenly start moving about. Ugh. Just thinking about it makes me wish it was closing time already and I was on my way home. This is very familiar looking though, this guy. We had a case with him before. This one I don't think we've seen. Is this some infamous murderer? Yes, called Jane the Ripper. All her victims were young women. I knew it. You can tell by the way she's holding that knife. Sure sign of a murder. Oh, yes. Ugh. What's the matter, Bruno? Put it out. I know what she's doing. She's trying to fill that bathtub with blood so she can have her soak in her victim's gore. Not according to the information about the exhibit on the little board here. It doesn't mention anything about the bathtub. Really. Sorry, I don't think it's significant. I still think it has to be there for a reason. Well, yeah, I thought it was gonna be Elizabeth Bathory for a moment. Why is this lookable? That big heavy curtain is in a very prominent position, isn't it? I have a nasty feeling there's going to be something truly terrifying behind it. Oh yes, that's the famous Two-Spur special exhibit. It depicts one of England's most notorious killers. Do you want to pay the extra fee and have a look? Pay more money? To be even more terrified? Oh, let me think about that for a moment. It was only a suggestion. Is this an example of a Western Sujigiri? I don't know what that is. You know, when an unscrupulous samurai randomly attacks a passerby to test his sword. I still don't know, no. But actually, a waxwork samurai would probably be hugely popular. Could you model it, do you think, Bruno? Doing that Sujigiri thing you mentioned? Well, I do have a sword, but I've no intention of testing how sharp it is on a human subject. For now, at least. It's the great detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. Mr. Sholmes has his own wax statue in here. Really? Well, he is world famous after all. It's an uncanny resemblance, isn't it? Makes my skin crawl to look at it. I know. But look, Bruno, you can kick this hell and he doesn't move a muscle. You can't go around kicking the exhibits, Iris. Wait. It just moved, I'm sure. And not just a little bit either. Really? Did it? And look closely. There are beads of sweat on the face of this waxwork model. Shall we move on, Iris? Over there, look, there's a great murder scene to enjoy. Much more appealing. My dear fellow, I take exception to your recoiling in such a manner, as if you've seen something truly abhorrent. Mr. Sholmes. I knew it. Iris, what possessed you? I strictly forbade you from divulging my temporary waxwork secret to Mr. Naruhodo. Temporary waxwork? What do you mean? And that kick! Could you not have exercised a little more restraint? You winded me. But Bruno has something he needs to ask you. Ah, a question. And I thought you'd probably be getting bored too. So here we are. Well, I can't deny that your timing was impeccable. A mere 2 minutes more being stationary like that, and my great brain upon which all my success has been built would have been turned to wax. Thank goodness we arrived on time. Indeed. In many ways, the pair of you just saved the world from an unimaginable loss. Oh, Hurley, you do like to talk nonsense, don't you? He could know something, it's true, about Lord Von Zieks, or what happened in the past to change him. Now that you're here, let's take our time. How can I be of assistance? For your own luck, I'm suddenly quite taken with the idea of conversing. Oh, well, actually I'm in quite a hurry. And if my eyes don't deceive me, I believe something is afoot within the walls of this very museum. A most fascinating case, if I'm not mistaken. Really? Moreover, I have a strong suspicion that it is related to the matter about which you come to me now. But how could it be? We shall speak again presently, my dear fellow, but for now I must return to my work. What? About to be in a temporary waxwork exhibit? What is this place? Madame Two-Spells came to London from France 3 years ago, I understand. Since she opened this little waxwork museum last year, it's enjoyed great popularity in London. There are museums like this in Japan too, but these displays are something else. I mean, they aren't made from actual real people, are they? The extreme realism of this waxwork models is a particular secret of the Two-Spells family, they say. They earned renown during the French Revolution for waxworks of victims of the guillotine. Ugh, that sounds grim. The gruesome scenes were portrayed with such realism in the expressions of the faces of the condemned. Apparently, the sculptors would make the models directly from the corpses, right there at the site of the executions. That really turns my stomach. That's just one of several legends about the Two-Spell family. Whether there's any truth in it, I couldn't say. But anyway, this museum houses models of famous people from all over the globe. Nevertheless, the most popular area of the museum by quite some margin is this House of Horrors. House of Horrors. Of course, visitor numbers are dwindling now as a result of the Great Exhibition. Ouch. Sorry, I think I have like a scab on my ankle. Strange. But people usually flock here to see the exhibits of some of the London's most vile criminals at the gruesome work. Naturally, most of the miscreants portrayed here were sent to the gallows. So they're even stiffer now than the models of them. Have you heard of poor taste? My dear fellow, the public live for poor taste. They yearn to be shocked. So, the hideous exhibits in here are... they're all portrayals of real events that actually took place. Is it just me? Or did the temperature in here just seem to drop? Anyway, I advise you not to think too deeply about what you see here. Oh, he's back to being a waxwork, is he? What do you mean by a temporary waxwork, Mr. Shums? Exactly what you see. I'm part of the exhibits here, catching these criminals in the act. Catching them? Every half an hour I home in on a different killer in one of the displays and adopt a new pose to ensnare him. When members of the public come for a closer look, I offer them my hand to shake. For a shilling, I happily allow them to take a photograph with us. Us? Does he mean him and the waxwork murderers in here? But why, Mr. Sholmes? My dear fellow, isn't it obvious? For the money! He really roared at me there. Very fitting for the House of Horrors. As it stands, I may struggle to pay this month's rent. I have the ravenous iris to consider. Oh, Hurley, I'm so hungry. If push comes to shove, I shall have to ask you to do your bit, Mr. Naruto.
What's he threatening to rope me into now? So, with that in mind, how about a photograph? As a special treat, you may have your pick of the murderers and scoundrels in here. The choice is yours. Maybe some other time. Remember, Mr. Naruto, ignore me at your peril. Back to being a waxwork again. Is it just me, or did his final remark there sound a lot like a curse? Well, what is it you'd like to ask me then? Actually, it's about Lord Von Zieks. Ah, our friend Mr. Reaper. How did you find him? Well, I trust. And so I filled Mr. Shelms in about everything I'd learned. About Lord Von Zieks, about Professor Harebrain, and about the strange coincidence that they had been at university together. So, I'm wondering what it was that happened to make Lord Von Zieks such a different person. I was sure you know. Sorry, I was sure that you'd know, Hurley. You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before. That something was afoot. And that you believed it was related to what I wanted to ask you about. Mr. Shums? He suddenly climbed up. Well, it seems we reached the Greetings. This Miss Two-Spot. Oh, she's cute! Oh, hello! Where does she appear from? And what's she wearing? Could she look any more mysterious? Oh, shit. Guys, help. Help! She's cute! I hope you are appreciating my museum. Sorry, have we? Mr. Shums, do you know? Not again. My apologies. I am Esmeralda Two-Spells. This is my museum of waxwork. You're the Madame Two-Spells. Bien sûr. Only 26 years young, I might add. Is that significant somehow? I'm a madame in name only. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi. Right. Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks. Or rather, one waxwork in particular. That'll be Mr. Shums then. I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, there will be toil and trouble. She sounds deadly serious. That's a problem. How am I supposed to ask Mr. Shums about Lord Von Zieks now? Let's not forget what Hurley said before. About something being afoot right here in the museum, I mean. Yes, I know, but I'm so curious. I want to know what's happening here. Have we got enough on our plate already? Might as well save real quick. Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Two-Spell? I did. I am the third generation of waxwork artisans, you know? Gosh! It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. That is when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to the astonishing lifelikeness. All these waxworks really do look as they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks were created in the presence of the real people on which they are modelled, in the hours immediately following the executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary likeness. God, that word's hard to say. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. And to carry out one's trade par excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society.
I create only that which the public wishes to see. Ugh. Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry. This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians. Something for every taste, I hope. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here, come to think of it. Sorry. Perhaps I should have eased you into things. What's the situation with that? Ah, my temporary waxwork model. He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madame, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Or worse to that effect. Naturally, I am well aware that Mr. Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's great detective, actually. He's very specific about it. Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess. Someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price for his services. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. What words to that effect? Mr. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly with the sales pitch. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment, due to unforeseen circumstances. Oh, you mean your financer probably dying because he was probably the bad dude? Addison or whatever. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing though, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50-shilling problem that must be resolved by the morning. What words to that effect? It's the pawnbroker, that's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective not going so well? It is strange. Holmes has never really struck us so far in the game as having money issues, I guess. I wonder, could I ask you something? Bien sûr. I'm just curious, is anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident, perhaps? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned it to me a little... Oh, he's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object of trade. Oh, that's him saying that. There you are! Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working. Do you wish to be melted down? My dear Madame Two-Spells, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. So our ideas about your current problem must throw into the melting pot instead. Personally, I would advise you not to involve the police. Why ever not? She's turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective, whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I prefer... No, I insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? That is the Two-Spell special exhibit. There's an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Absolutely not. There's nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madame. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? I like when we get to see her face. I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond, before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I'll draw back the curtains, but only as cool. I don't know how to pronounce French words, so I don't know what the C with the little dangly bit is. Number 139. I must confess I peeped behind the curtain earlier. The two-spell special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman lying peacefully on his back on the floor. Well then perhaps, Mr. Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself. Afraid not, my dear fellow. He's a perfectly ordinary London gentleman, not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. Let me just drink a little bit of water. So allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit. What? Why would you say that? Because you're cute and also mysterious and probably hiding a dead body. And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. She looks as pale as candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Two Spells, as you've agreed to my fee, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. I'm kind of wishing that I stopped a half hour ago now, because I thought this was going to be a quick thing. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so hopefully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Oh, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Two Spells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. No! Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Yeah? Yeah, where is she looking now? Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200! It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result? The scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams were not plagued with regret. Yeah, I don't, no. Oh, Sholmes. Why are you always so very wrong? The question that arises then is, what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me over this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Such as is worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Sorry. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... Next we turn our attention to the old man sat before with the particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. And I notice at once, of course. Observe! The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence? A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks for rental cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behaviour that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madame? I do not. Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. Wrong. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Throw it at him! I see, I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up one point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo 1 point. More ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So, that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman. Ottermole. Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself. A senior officer by the name of Ottermole. So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be? Indeed. It is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that puts things in perspective. So it is quite a lot, then. Is there anything else you wish to add before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so... I think I might have to call on your assistance here, Iris, if that's alright. To make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deduction. Of course it's alright. We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Two Spells vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Two Spells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Okay. All right. Here we go. She definitely looked in this direction, it's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks, even for £200. Oh? She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would. But it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. What is this? What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Oh yes, let's see. Dear Madame Two Spells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on the 23rd of October. What? This is... It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note. Exactly. It seems this well-dressed gentleman is alive after all. Just not alive and kicking. He's not a waxwork model or model of mass murder. Not sure I'd pay £200 for him. I don't think the man's up for sale. Well, anyway, it was a silly place to put him. Other museum visitors could easily trip. I don't think the man was put there on purpose either.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so. We must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness, abducting a waxwork. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, not the £200, but something else. So, if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes around. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Two Spells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. I don't think she's looking at long hair braid. Is there something in her hand at all? Madame Two Spells has very long hair, doesn't she? Yes, but you couldn't tell looking at her from the front. You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? The sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack. That seems a little far-fetched even for you, Runo. Are you sure it's not like... What really left him stretched on the floor? Wait a minute. She has an extra hand back here. This is just Madame Two Spells' right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all. But wait a minute. This is a left hand as well, look. Don't say just creepy things, Iris, please. And it seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. You mean... It's made of wax.
Take that!
What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you... The hand protruding from the bottom... Oh, sorry, that's us. The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be your right hand, but closer inspection reveals that in fact it's a left hand. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madame. It is the hand of a waxwork model. Yeah. Some of the visitors in my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that, Yes. This gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. No small feat. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I'm afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result, the scene we see before us, he was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. And the question that arises then is what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me over this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer we need only observe. According to Mr. Shums, the yellow neckerchief is assigned to other policemen that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with his colleague without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard. That Mr. Shums didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets is any true detective nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madam's two-spell's reaction to Mr. Shums' seduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. What reveals the identity of the... Oh. What the... The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Well, that settles that then. Right. This isn't a real person at all. His entire arm has been ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... Of course, that ties in what we just found out.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth, of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact defying all odds, a waxwork mortal. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Shums. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally. What other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, was it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. But watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost in fact as if he were a waxwork. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicion, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe! The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious. A killer policeman called Otterwell, was it? You are known. It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Gaddo's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer policeman Autumnal? Really? Perhaps we should give it a look around again and see if another idea crops up.
Look at this. The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. He seems to be fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then. So you mean it must be a twitch? Never mind that. The point is waxworks don't tap their feet. Or twitch. And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we? Scarf on the arm. I mean, it's the obvious twitch, too, but... I don't believe it. It's the secret sign that lets other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was trying to go unnoticed. Ah, he must be a detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris.
Take that!
The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. A slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Two-Swills. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of 3 pence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby had purchased recently in the local market. And I presume you've observed this scarf tattered on his arm. Does that strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. The secret sign used by the detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course. Because, as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So it would seem that we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the mortal's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Alright then. Deduction complete. Elementary, my dear Naruhodo. All sorts of people visit my museum here. Men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway. Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I've been led to believe. Oh, look, she's smiling. It was a pleasure, my dear madame. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display, if it was indeed genuinely abducted. Yes. Tragically, it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork, in as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I've told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Now we can converse. Okay, I really hope this is the last thing for this part. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display. That's why the curtains were closed. and I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. So this waxwork that was stolen, it was immortal of some horrible criminal, I suppose. A particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Ooh, Moriarty. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago. A series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Barak von Zieks graduated from the university, in fact. What? Surely he's not sane. So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life. As you've surmised. It was the Professor case. Who was this Professor then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. And now he's immortalized the end wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord von Zieks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose. Some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves to the country's administrative. Members of the... Oh, wait, of course. What Professor Harebrain said. Lord von Zieks is from a family with noble blood. Of course. It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint von Zieks. No, I don't believe it. Von Zieks! I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Barak pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord von Zieks had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure, thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involve. Excuse me, sorry, jeez. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here. It's been too long. It really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak. Barak. It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Osborn. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen.
Tomorrow the court will decide.
Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it.
I must warn you.
Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to prosecute. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you?
Yes.
Since I've returned to England, I've had lots of stories. Barak, are you really...
What?
Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart.
My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else.
Of course. I fully understand. Thank you, Baroque.
Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court.
He's got to make sure justice is done right. Can't have any bribes or anything crazy going on with a prosecutor trying to get him murdered. It makes sense for him to prosecute the case. Alright. I need to cease now. I am tired. I'm tired. I need to look at my leg to understand what the heck is going on with it. Because I don't have the lights on in my room. So I've just been like poking at my leg and wondering why it's hurt. I must have gotten bit by something, I imagine. But this has been fun. Excuse me again for the interruptions that I had a number of times here. But thank you for watching. I hope to see you all again. What's today? Wednesday? Tomorrow, I don't know what I'll play. I finished Zelda, so I can really play anything. Maybe I've been kind of having a hankering for some more Fate Grand Order, like my old account, I mean. So maybe I'll play a little bit of my old account. It kind of depends. Thursdays do tend to be like the social night for my friends, so if any one of them like pull me into something, then I probably won't do anything. But we'll see. And then this Friday, I'm thinking that I'll probably play some Splatoon. Just a little bit of Friend Code Friday, I think. Mainly because we'll get the announcements for how Splatfest ended up. And it will just be fun, hopefully. So, we'll see. But anyway, I'm going to go now. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. Sorry, I do feel like my voices were like totally off in a lot of places today, and I don't know why. I guess my voice just isn't cooperating. But anyway, take it easy, and I will see you next time. So, bye for now.